What's up, everybody, and welcome to the Foot and Fist Sports Network, where today we're going to be talking about MMA being legalized in New York City. This is really, really big news for both UFC and Bellator and other fighting organizations, but especially the UFC, who have been waiting for around, 17 years to be legalized in New York. For those who don't know, there were a lot of problems with the Culinary Unions trying to convince Lorenzo Fertitta, who is famously the leader of the casino in Las Vegas, who is not part of the Culinary Union. So there was a Mr. Silver in New York who is now serving time in jail, who was doing whatever he could to prevent the MMA and most specifically the UFC from being able to perform in New York City. Now this is really, really big news, like I said, because Madison Square Garden and arenas in Buffalo and in Brooklyn and cities like that are now free. Now, what does that mean? That means that the UFC can now put on a super show in Madison Square Garden. Something they've been talking about for a long time is having Jon Jones headline the card, and also having guys like Frankie Edgar, Aldo Quinta, guys like pretty relatively big names fighting on the card. Now, what I think the UFC should do is have sort of like a UFC 200 type of show, where it's super stacked. But what they should do is have the main and co-main, sort of like maybe West versus East, or just super fights basically. Now, I think the perfect main event they could have is Jon Jones versus Luke Rockhold. If Luke Rockhold is still the champion after the Weidman fight, which I think he'll win handily. If not, then Chris Weidman should fight Jon Jones, because it'd be New York versus New York. They've talked about that fight many a time, and I think that would be a really, really interesting fight. So I would say, Jon Jones versus Luke Rockhold. That would have the East versus West factor. Biggie, Tupac, whatever you want to say about that. Also, I would say, because they're similar, Luke Rockhold is a very big middleweight. It'd be interesting to see how he can handle Jon Jones' range. It would be a very interesting fight because they're both really technical. They're both, very good ground fighters and have outstanding wrestling. Another fight I would love to see would have to be Frankie Edgar from Jersey taking on Conor McGregor. If he doesn't take on Frankie Edgar at UFC 200, which I think they won't, because Frankie Edgar is too big a risk, I would say they're going to give him Aldo or Nate Diaz at UFC 200. And if he comes out of that with the belt, if he does fight Aldo, I would say Frankie Edgar would make an excellent choice. Frankie Edgar is loved by everybody, and he's a big name over there and on the East Coast, and I would love to see him fight Conor in Madison Square Garden. I think this is a really great opportunity for the UFC, who have already said they're going to want to do at least 2 shows this year in New York itself. And I would love to see a super card like that. Can you just imagine how amazing that would be? All right, guys, let me know in the comment section down below what you think about MMA being legalized in New York City, and what you think the UFC should do on their first card in Madison Square Garden. Who should be the headliner? Who should be the co-main headliner? And I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please hit the like button, please subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Thanks for watching.